Hi everybody, it's Phil from Ashtons Franchise Consulting, and today I'm joined by Stephen Hopper from Plan Burrito. Hi Stephen,
Hi Phil, how you doing?
I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
We're gonna talk about Plan Burrito and how you franchise the business, and where you're up to. Do you want to tell us in a elevator pitch what does Plan Burrito do?
So Plan Burrito, we do Tex-Mex street food, so we're a quick service operation, um, pretty much similar to a Subway style service. A customer will come in, they'll start at the beginning, we'll take the payment, and they can customize their burrito or their wrap, just as you would be able to customize a sandwich or a sub at Subway. So really from start to finish, we can have a customer in and out after 60 seconds, and that's it. So it's very, very quick service.
Fabulous. And judging by the Midlands accent, you're not from Mexico. So how did you establish a Mexican street food company?
It's a funny one actually. So I've got a brother who is a doctor at Oxford University, and he achieved something quite good and said to come down to Oxford to celebrate. So we went for a quick bite to eat, and he took me to a place called Mission Burrito. And that was my first taste of a burrito in this country. Usually when you're talking of a quick bite to eat, you'd usually think of your traditional McDonald's, Subway, KFC, that kind of operation. But he took me to this place and I had it, and I was just blown away by how healthy it was, how handheld it is, how customizable it is, fresh, tasty. It kind of catered for everything. So yeah, I mean, it's my love for burritos started there. And actually, I wrote a long email to the directors of Mission Burrito saying I'd love to franchise your brand and be a franchisee.
Yeah.
And they never even responded to my email.
Okay.
So I thought to
Well,
myself,
their
right,
loss.
I'll do my own. so
And
so that
are they still in Oxford, or are they still going, or
the last I heard, they moved up north and they were doing a few bits in the Midlands and further afield, but I think they've took it all back down south now. I know they're all company owned, so hence why they weren't franchising. So they obviously didn't reply to me because they didn't have a franchise model.
yeah.
And I thought to myself instantly, the only way to grow a national brand is to franchise in this game. So that's why I came up with the concept of Plan Burrito, and from the outset it was a vision to franchise this.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible, because lots of business owners would probably create a business and then go, oh, maybe I could franchise it. But for you to have that even before it started, that's really good. So what year was it you established your first one?
Yeah, so my first one was established in 2015, May the 4th. So it was on Star Wars Day
Yeah.
that we managed to open. So beforehand, I was a design engineer, and I kind of gave up that, and I got myself a £10,000 credit card and sold my car. I was fortunate enough to be able to move back in with my mum, because I didn't have a lot. So I really had kind of £15,000 to set up a Plan Burrito.
And where was that set up?
So we set up in Loughborough, which is a small town in the Midlands, but it's really, really big and healthy with students. It's a sporting university as well, so they care about how healthy their food is, and so to bring an offer in, I mean, like we call it, it's a guilty free takeaway, which is just so tasty. I never knew I could have a healthy meal that was tasty before burrito. So,
Excellent.
so yeah, that's why we brought it to Loughborough, and we opened up on May the 4th, 2015. And since then it's been a big learning curve.
At what point did you start seriously looking at franchising? Was it a couple of years, or how long did it take you before?
So after 6 months trading in Loughborough, I opened up a second location in Loughborough. The store which I had was not big enough to take on delivery, so we were so busy in store that we had to take on a second store to be able to handle delivery services. I
Okay.
mean, these were up and coming at the time. So we had Deliveroo, we had Uber Eats, we had Just Eat and stuff like that. So we took on another unit in at the opposite side of town in Loughborough, and we used that. That was next door to Nando's, and we used that as a kind of delivery hub, and we registered with all the delivery platforms, and we made a success of that one
Mm.
and of the first one.
So the
Then,
first one was more of a people come to it, and the second one was more of a dark kitchen, effectively, where the delivery drivers came to.
well, the first one, yeah, we had an eating kind of covers of about 25 people,
Mm.
which was ideal because it's only a 5-minute food. If you get a burrito and you want to sit down with it, you don't sit there for hours. You'll have it and you'll go. It's just the nature of the food. So that was ideal for us. The second one that we opened up, it wasn't dark kitchen, and we had a high street location. We were next door to Nando's with the signage. It was still bricks and mortar, and it was everything, but it was a small unit, so what seating in there was limited. I think we offered about maybe 10 seats for customers. So we did get a lot of people coming in and sitting in, and but it didn't take long for them seats to be full. But primarily that was the delivery setup.
Okay.
So yeah. And then a year after that, that's when I went into franchising, because obviously I proved the model in 2 locations in the same small town.
Yeah.
So yes,
You had the financial records there and the systems built and the processes in place.
we did, but there weren't long enough financial records, to be honest, at that point. Usually, they'd want to see at least a couple of years trading, and but I knew it worked and I believed in the brand, whether anyone else did or not at that point.
Well, that's the most important thing, that the owner believes in it, and that's the starting point. Now, completely off topic, but what's your top tip about eating a burrito and not having that last little end bit fall all over your shirt? Because that always happens to me. You think you're doing well, and then it's that last little bite, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, I'd say you've got to go in, you've got to commit to it. You've got to get that whole last bit. There's probably 2 or 3 bites there, but just do it in one.
Yeah.
Do it in one. Get the fallout straight in. And yeah, as long as no one's looking, you're fine.
Franchising, you knew there was something there. What was your process in learning about franchising? How did you build your knowledge and things like that?
I mean, for me, I learned the hard way. I made a lot of mistakes. I had a friend that came to me and says he's seen what I was doing. He's seen what I was serving. He was in the sales game, and he wanted to look at doing it. And he said, let's open one in kind of Leicester. So, I went ahead with it. I rang my accountant. I said, have you got any franchise agreements or anything else like that? So we've got something on paper. So I think they used a standard law agreement. I think they charged me about £1,000 for it. I was like, oh, we're safe with this. You signed it all. I got them to sign it. I thought, I'm professional. This is exactly how you do it. I've got everything set up. And yeah, they got to the point of opening. They opened, and it got to break even and a profit really quite fast. And then the owners were never in there, and the processes and stuff which were in place in my store, they weren't running in their store, and I had no operation manual. I had no protection that related back to operation manuals, which would be in your franchise agreement and stuff like that. And in the end, I had to say to my friend, you're not really, your heart's not in it. It's another income for you, but for me, it's my brand and it's what I built. So he, in the end, he went separate ways, and we gave the sublease to someone else. And that's the point I went back to the drawing board, and I sat in my office and I wrote myself an operations manual, which took me probably 8 months to do. I wrote that, and then I was in touch with looking for a consultant who can tell me how to do it, because when you've got a failed one like that, it's really discouraging, and it makes you feel like, am I taking the right route? Am I doing, it hits you quite hard. And actually, I class that as a fail. You know, if the shop's not running, it's obviously a fail, no matter what the reasons are behind it.
Mm.
And obviously, to have the first store fail, to me, I thought, well, who's going to want to franchise now? Who's going to
Gets you
believe that? Oh,
thinking.
it was a friend of mine, and I think you just weren't, you know, they weren't quite as committed as what they needed to be
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. Challenging working with friends and family, isn't it? So
It really is. It really is, and that would be one of the things I completely, you know, advise against. And that's when I started researching kind of the best franchise consultants to be working with to guide me. I spoke to quite a few. Ashtons stood out to me. The way they handled it, the way they broke the wording down. They weren't using really long words to sound very intelligent. You know, they broke it down to a person such as myself. I'm not saying I'm not an intelligent person, but you know, there's several ways of saying a certain word, and you know,
making
there's
it
an
clear and simple.
yeah. So I think it was the way that they broke it down and made it clear and simple and spoke in a very, you know, I mean, these are solicitors, lawyers, and stuff like that, and they didn't use all the jargon, which unless you studied that field, you wouldn't know what it means. So for me, clarity, you know, when you're starting off a business and you wanted to go franchise, you know everything about your business. So when they're talking to you in a language that you wouldn't understand, it's an instant put off. Whereas Ashtons understood that. You know, they'll talk and they'll break things down. And also, I think I found with them, they gave me the time of day for a start. I mean, they invited me over to Norwich to their offices, and you know, they said, come and meet us. And I went in and I sat down and I met them in person, which is good for me because I'm a more people's person. And you know, we sat down, we spoke, and you know, I think they believed in the brand from then as well. Whereas a lot of other people and consultants I spoke to, you were just another person, you were just another dreamer that wanted to franchise. You know, as soon as you mean franchising in any game, they're like, oh yeah, well, unless you've got 10 stores open, they don't take you seriously. So that's where kind of Ashtons really became a head and a parent to work with for me.
Yeah, okay. And then you worked with Charlie. So how was it working with a Scot?
Yeah, absolutely wicked. You know, he is an asset to Ashtons, absolutely. And to me, you know, there was certain things that, you know, we put Charlie in charge of doing our franchise information memorandum, which is basically a financial breakdown that you'd give to your potential franchisees so that they can base business plans off it, and so they can see all our, you know, financial information. And you know what, it didn't just it never stopped there. He was always like, you know, prepare yourself for this, prepare yourself for that, because he's been in the game for a long time. You know, so he knew what was coming already, and he could pre-warn me about things. And this was outside of doing the film. This was, you know, as a whole, even just mentally mentoring me and gearing me up. And you know, when I've not done franchising before, there was a lot of things that I was like, I felt a little bit silly because maybe I should have known that. But to Charlie, I could say to him, I don't understand, and he'd sit down,
break it down,
and he'd break it down for you.
Yeah.
You never felt like you were on the clock.
Yeah.
I paid him for this. He needs to, you know, you never felt like that.
And on to the next client sort of thing.
I just think it wasn't about it. With Ashtons, it didn't feel like it was the money game. They were thinking and they were passionate about working with the brand and growing a brand. And that was it. And Charlie was the person that really kind of, and Nick and John Chambers and everyone I've dealt with really at Ashtons have all been the same. They're passionate about the brands they're working with, and they want to push them in whatever way they can.
So and want to see them become successful. And of course, money will follow for everyone involved, but it wasn't the number one driver.
No, and money for me is still not the number one driver either. We're not a greedy franchise at all. We're all about building a legacy basically, but we want to build a brand, and that's what we're enjoying doing.
Mm.
So yeah, they really are the best people that I could have wished to work with and introduced me to franchising. And not only that, but their network.
Where are you up to now? How many franchisees have you got, or how many stores, locations have you got?
Yeah, so we've got 6 locations at present. By the end of July, we'll have 8. So
Okay.
we're opening up in Leamington Spa and Ramsgate. So we've got quite an aggressive opening pattern at the minute. Reason being for that, when we launched the franchise, we were signing up people for the territories, and it was the franchisee's job to kind of find the locations and their premises.
Mhm.
And we found that it was taking them a lot longer than what we expected. So again, we went back to Ashtons. I says, specifically Charlie, we are having this hold up. We're having, people are great. They're passionate about the business. They've seen the figures. They like the figures.
They want to do it.
They know the brand. They want to do it. It's just properties. And so he put me in touch with a guy at the retail group in London.
David.
David, yes. And David was able to start finding properties for the people who I'd already signed up the locations for.
Because I presume you've got extraction needs, do you, in your premises?
No, this is the good thing about our setup. So when I set it up, it was really simplified. We don't need extraction, we don't need phase, and we don't need gas. So yeah, we've done it really, really simple. So but there was still a hold up nevertheless with the setup. So we brought David on board, and he was finding the properties. So when we had a backlog of 6 or 7 people that had already got their locations and the territories, they all started moving through at the same time, and the properties were found at the same time. So then we had to open up when they were coming through after the legals, which can take a while on the property legals. Then it would come to us to get them open. So that's where we're at the minute. We've opened up, 6 really quite close together, with another 2 opening up in a month. And that should be through the bottleneck, and then it's going to be streamlining at a much easier, manageable pace. Another thing that was holding it up was kind of the store design. So we took on someone to do our store designs, and that really helped, because when franchisees come to us now, we give them a build pack, and they can take the build pack to any of their contractors that they want to do the shop fits, and they can hand that straight over. And it's kind of it's a really good guide of how to build the property out, because obviously we're a transparent franchise, so we don't charge or make any extra money out of the shop fit. So we don't say to franchisees, you have to use these shop fitters. If they've got friends and family in the trade that can do it cheaper for them and everything else, we don't make money. We give them the bill pack to work to. Again, we don't take any we don't make any money on the packaging or the food or anything that we supply to our franchisees. So the only fees that we take from a franchisee is the management service fee, which is really not standard practice for franchises. But
food and beverage franchises.
We wanted to run an ethical franchise. So these other franchisees working for other franchisors, they're getting charged for the packaging that they don't even know about. They're getting charged for the food extra, which they don't know about. So these are all charges that the franchisee never knew about, and to me it felt like they were stealing from their own brand.
It creates bad blood after a while, when they might realize, or they're into it and they think, oh, the margins aren't as much as they thought they were going to be. So it's about longevity, isn't it? And like you said, ethical.
Exactly. And for us, if it just take a little bit from each one to cover the back end, because there's a lot that goes on in the back end, as you know, in franchising. So as long as there's enough there, and the franchisee knows what he's paying for, more to the point, and that to me is an ethical franchise, not where they're putting extra money on the packaging, putting extra money on the food, and quite often they'll make 40-50 grand out the shop fit as well, because they have to use their shop fitters. And you think, God, imagine what the franchisee could do if they took that 40 grand and put that into marketing. What would that do for the brand on the
Yeah,
big
yeah,
scale of things, you know?
yeah. I think you've learned lessons there though, because you've learned that franchisees are obviously buying a franchise because they want to follow a system and they want to have someone to guide them. But actually, that starts right from day one when
Oh
they're
yeah,
looking for a location, when they're trying to find shop fitters, etc. So
yeah.
it's having everything in place as much as possible to help them get on board. You talked earlier about legacy and where do you want to be in 10 years? Are you like, what's your goal and what's your overall hope for this thing?
Um, we want to be obviously we want to be international as well. I think so. Not just nationwide. We don't want to be just national. We want to be international as well. I believe strongly in the way we do things. The way we've simplified our operations means we can run on minimal staff. You know, we don't need skilled chefs, so we don't need skilled labor. The premises, we can pretty much squeeze one of ours into kind of 500 square foot, which means we can get into prime locations at lower costs. So we've got all these things which I took into account when I was designing the business. And when the operations are right, it means that the franchise later on down the line stands a much bigger chance. If we had chefs naming what they needed, what they wanted paying, if they had, you know, we had to have a designated pot wash, if we had to offer table service, if we had to do all stuff like that, then you're talking, you know, you could only run on, I mean, we can have a store in a not so busy location and run on a single staff member. And you can't do that in this game. So
Well, I
we're
think
innovative.
it's really interesting because you had so much of this foresight, obviously, at the start before when you were designing the business. And
Yeah.
that's fantastic that you were thinking about it at that stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations on what you've done so far. Your biggest achievement to date?
Business wise,
Business or personal?
personal would be my children. That's my biggest achievement. And actually, my children drive me to do well in my business. Business wise, I mean, we won the best street food in the country, which was a massive achievement, because when you're talking street food, you're talking kebabs, burgers, everything, you know, everything. And we won that across the board. So
Amazing.
our little store in Loughborough won that.
Yeah.
So that was a massive achievement for us. We've won a silver award in franchising already in our first year. So they're all good achievements, but they're achievements which I'm pushing to do for my children.
Yeah, great. Worst error? What was the biggest mistake you've made?
Friends. Don't go into business with friends.
Keep them as friends.
Keep them as friends.
Don't
Yeah.
sign a deal at 11 o'clock down the pub.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, keep them as friends. Well, don't get me wrong. I know people who are friends and they've gone into business and it's worked fantastic. But for me, it was a bad experience. But
But
it was
possibly it might have been a different experience for him now. Now you're further down the line and you're a bit more
exactly, maybe the brand
developed.
weren't established enough and it didn't give him enough motivation. You know, maybe so. I mean, I kind of seen how it was, and it just it wasn't what it needed for our first franchise.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And the final question, what's your best tip for a new would-be franchisor, someone looking to franchise their business?
Persistence. Yeah. I mean, it took me from 2015 to now, while my stores are starting to open. So you're talking 7-8 years. And then you've got kind of 2 years preparation for that. With you getting all the paperwork right, all the legal documentation behind, making sure. Yeah, so I'd always say persistence, and make sure don't try and cut corners. Don't try and cut corners when it comes to your legal stuff as well. You know, use someone like Ashtons. They may not be the cheapest person out there, but you'll get exactly what you're paying for and more with them. You know, this is going, you know, if you're looking at franchising, it's going to be a life-changing thing. Don't scrimp on it.
And then finally, just if people are interested in your franchise, where to go, how to get in touch, what sort of person are you looking for?
I mean, people that we're looking for, we're not looking for a millionaire who wants to make another £1 million. You know, that's not what we're about. Our franchise packages are, you know, we say they're between 40 and £80,000 from start up to completion. You know, so it's a very low cost franchise. And what we want is we want people that didn't think they could afford to franchise or own their own business, who's going to be passionate about what they're doing, run it as a family kind of operation. Once they see the returns on that, open up a second and a third and a fourth, because they're the people that are really going to, you know, keep the passion in the brand.
Yeah, be involved in it.
Yeah. So, you know, we have took franchisee on that are not, that they're not owner operators, but they're businessmen, and they've got good management in place for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking for people that are ambitious, you know, ambitious. And you don't need, I think, you know, a franchisee only needs £20,000 because we've got we've got financing available. Where, you know, so they only have to foot up about £20,000 minimum. And that's the price of a car.
Yeah.
You know,
sell your car and you're done.
Well, this is it. I mean, I always go back to my roots and where I started off with it. And I know I had that £15,000 credit card.
Yeah.
You know, and I wished I could be part of a franchise because, you know, although you're paying a franchise, a management service fee of 5%, which is what we charge, you know, we save the franchisee that on deals that we have with our delivery platforms, buying power through the network for our ingredients, and many other ways. So actually, you know, although they're spending 5%, they're probably saving 15% on the whole, as if they were to start as an independent.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
And then if people are interested, want to read more, have you got a specific website, or is it just going to the Plan Burrito website?
Yeah, you can go to planburrito.co.uk and you can click on the franchise tab and fill in a little the tiny form there, and just quick click through the website.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, it's been really interesting. Thank you very much for your time, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
And wish you every success into the future.
Thank you very much.